So Docker was really kind of my introduction into the container world. And if you're not too familiar with what containers are, you can think of it as kind of mini OS systems, kind of built in, very modular, and very easy to move around. And basically, the nice thing about Docker is that you can build, share, and run pretty much anything um, wherever. So in the old days, you had to buy a server, put it in your closet, and store it there. And then you had to load software onto that server, make sure that all the necessary languages were there, all the necessary plugins were there, and you just kind of took forever. With Docker, that's kind of made it super nice now, and I'm going to show you some of that. But basically, you can pick these things up, and you can move your application wherever you need to very quickly. So I'm just going to dive in. I don't know. I just like to explain as I go rather than kind of like a lecture. So I already kind of have a little bit of stuff set up. Not much. I didn't practice any of this before, if you couldn't tell. So yeah, let's just dive in. Let's just go into this basic folder. And kind of the basics that you really need to know about Docker is that there's these things called images and there's these things called containers. And they're not the same, but yet they're kind of the same. So what I mean is that you have an image that is kind of what I call the blueprint for your container. So you'll have one image that is immutable, and that thing will be used to spin up multiple containers. Okay, and those containers, once they're running, you can do things outside of them, inside of them, and make changes to them so that they kind of are more quote unquote customizable, I guess. That's probably not the right word. Maybe we should just dive into an example. So how you create an image, which is the blueprint, is basically with a Docker file. So that's what I have. I have this Docker file, and I'm basically bringing in CentOS, which is just an OS if you're not familiar, and I'm bringing in the latest. So let's just go ahead and build this image, because you have to build it. So we're just going to do a Docker build, and then we're going to actually tag it with a name, and we're just going to call it CentOS, and we're going to tell where the Docker file is by doing a period. So that's going to basically go out, and it's going to build this image for me, and this image is called CentOS latest. All right, so now what we can do is now we go in and we can actually query what images we have on my machine currently, and all we have now is the current image that we just built. And if we do a Docker PS, which is how you see what containers are running, we should see that there are no containers currently running. Okay, and that's kind of how I wanted to show you the difference between what a Docker image is versus what a Docker container is. Okay, so now what I can do to actually run this image and make it a container, you do a Docker run, and we can just do CentOS. Actually, let's do this. Docker run.it, which is basically making it an interactive session for me. And then I'm going to do CentOS, and then I'm going to actually pass it a command that I want to run, which is bash. So what this is going to do is it's actually going to let me go into the container, okay? And now I'm actually inside of this container. So if I open another shell here, and I do a Docker PS, you'll notice that I now have a Docker container running, okay? And that is the same one, if you notice this container ID, that is the same one that is running in my other shell.